The IDF just captured the Gaza harbor, thwarting Hamas's plans to infiltrate Israel by sea. The IDF is also beginning to release photos and videos from inside the Shifa Hospital in Gaza, showing Hamas weapons inside what is purported to be the terrorists' main command center. And an absolutely disgusting lie from the BBC. All this and more on today's show. Stay tuned. I'm Justin, and this is the Israel Guys. Welcome to the Israel Guys, where we believe that in a world of Jew hatred and anti-Israel propaganda, you should have a direct connection to the land and people of Israel. Guys, first off, make sure to subscribe, like this video, hit the notification bell so you never miss any of the episodes of the Israel Guys that we're bringing to you every single day, Monday through Friday. Also, follow us on all of our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook really helps us out. You can also join our breaking news Telegram channel using the link. It's in the description below. So this morning there was a terror attack at the checkpoint just south of Jerusalem, on the way to Gush Etzion, the checkpoint on the south of Jerusalem. There was a terror attack. 3 Palestinian Arab terrorists pulled up to the crossing and they opened fire, and 6 Israelis were wounded in this attack. Thankfully, all 3 terrorists were very quickly neutralized by Israeli forces on the scene. According to JNS, Magen David Adom emergency medical personnel treated 4 of the victims at the scene, including a man in his 20s in critical condition, before evacuating them to the hospital. A woman in her early 20s and a man in his 30s were in moderate condition, and another young man was lightly wounded. The other 2 victims were in light to moderate condition. The terrorists were reportedly from Hebron. After searching the vehicles, the IDF, they found Kalashnikov rifles and also axes in the vehicles. It was reported that the terrorists, they were actually planning a much larger scale terror attack, but thankfully it wasn't too bad, and no one was killed right off the bat. But continue to pray for the recovery of the victims, that they would have a full recovery there in the hospital. Thankfully, the IDF forces on the scene, they were able to react very quickly and take out the terrorists very quickly. So now for an update on the war. We're now in the 6th week of the war with Hamas. The IDF is now deep in the heart of Gaza. They've been doing a lot of operations in Gaza, taking on a lot of terrorists, capturing huge Hamas strongholds, also continuing airstrikes. There's pictures of IDF soldiers on the beaches of Gaza, which is really cool. So they've taken over a lot of the beaches, and then in the last few days, they actually just took over the Gaza harbor. 10 terror tunnel shafts and 4 structures used for terror at the Gaza harbor were destroyed, and 10 terrorists were killed. And all the buildings in the harbor area were cleared. The IDF said this, quote, "The Hamas terrorist organization used the harbor as a training facility for their naval commando forces for planning and executing naval terror attacks. Under the guise of a civilian harbor, Hamas used the area for training and carrying out terror attacks, all the while using civilian and Gaza harbor police vessels." So it looks like a normal civilian harbor for Gaza, but no, Israel is not just attacking civilian places. This was used by Hamas for training, as the IDF said, for terror attacks, also for using it for planning and sending out boats and stuff. But thankfully, the IDF were able to capture this, thwart Hamas's plans maybe to infiltrate Israel by sea. So thankfully, they were able to capture that. The IDF also bombed the house of one of the main Hamas leaders, Ismail Haniyeh. The IDF said the residence was used as terrorist infrastructure and often served as a meeting point for Hamas's senior leaders to direct terror attacks against Israeli civilians and IDF soldiers. So Ismail Haniyeh, He doesn't live in that house, but he lives in Qatar under the protection of the Qatari government, which I'm not sure why that should be allowed. A terrorist leader living under the protection of a government. Also, there's also been some action on the northern border. The IDF struck some Hezbollah targets in southern Lebanon after Hezbollah fired about 20 rockets into Israel. Approximately 15 projectiles struck open areas in Israel, thankfully causing no casualties or damage. Also, the past couple weeks, Hezbollah has been testing the waters a lot. They've been doing sort of small stuff, although quite often they've had some infiltration attacks on the northern border, trying to come in and commit terror attacks, also launching some rockets, kind of testing to see what Israel will do in response. Thankfully, the IDF has been very strong, showing very strong force, and I think sending a very clear message to Hezbollah saying, do not get fully involved. It will not end well for you. Because they'll do the same thing to Hezbollah as they are doing to Hamas. This comes a couple of days after IDF Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi held an assessment with the Northern Command. He said, quote, "We are preparing strongly with action plans for the North. Our mission is to bring security. The security situation will not remain such that the residents of the North do not feel safe to return to their homes." It was reported that around 17,000 residents have been evacuated from their homes on the northern border. So it's definitely a scary situation, a lot of risks and stuff. But Hezbollah hasn't fully joined in the war against Israel. I think they're kind of scared to at this point with how the IDF has been strongly responding against them. Guys, we're going to get into what is going on with the Shifa Hospital in Gaza. I'm sure you've seen it all over the news recently. But first, the brutal attack that Hamas inflicted on Israel on October 7th was the worst tragedy to befall the Jewish people since the Holocaust. We believe that now is the time for Christians around the world to stand with Israel and provide support during this crisis. Here at the Israel Guys and Hayovel, we started Operation Itai with the goal of airlifting vital supplies and critical equipment to the communities here in Judea and Samaria, ensuring they stay safe and protected during this time of crisis. We're bringing things in like protective vests, helmets, thermal drones, night vision goggles, binoculars, flashlights, security cameras, security gates, and much, much more. Guys, now is the time for people from around the world to rise up with one voice to equip and defend Israel's biblical heartland, ensuring that a situation like the attacks from Gaza will never be created inside the region of Judea and Samaria. Guys, please join us. If there's ever a time to show your support for the nation of Israel, it is now. We already have airplanes lined up to transport the needed equipment to Israel from the United States. And the first shipment has actually already arrived here in Israel. Guys, but we need your help in the way of financial support. You can go to operationitai.com or click the link in the description below if you want to help us raise $29 million in support, defend, and protect the towns and communities of Judea and Samaria. What is going on with the Shifa Hospital in Gaza? If you've been paying any attention to the news recently or on social media, you've probably seen a lot of stuff about it. There has been a ton of misinformation and fake news circulating in the recent days about the Shifa Hospital. The news media has jumped all over it. They've been covering it a lot with a lot of fake news. Some people are actually they're calling the hospital, the Shifa Hospital, the symbol of the war or the symbol of the Gaza health resilience. There's also videos all over social media. A lot of them actually are fake, set up for the cameras, but of bombed out rooms, people lying all over the floor after they say an Israeli airstrike. But what is actually happening? So many people have been condemning Israel for bombing this hospital. They're claiming it's against international law, which, by the way, it is not against international law. I'm going to read you Article 19 from the Geneva Convention. The protection to which civilian hospitals are entitled shall not cease unless they are used to commit, outside their humanitarian duties, acts harmful to the enemy. Protection may, however, cease only after due warning has been given, naming in all appropriate cases a reasonable time limit, and after such warning has remained unheeded. As I will prove in just 1 minute, this hospital has absolutely been used to commit acts harmful to the enemy being Israel. Also, Israel has warned the hospital for weeks to evacuate everyone out of the hospital. I think that is by far due warning. Israel is doing more than any other country in the world would do by going out of their way to make sure civilians are not harmed whenever it is remotely possible. Okay, so now for the proof that Hamas has been using this hospital as sort of a command central. Watch this video here.
So we're inside the MRI center of the Shifa Hospital. Israeli troops reached here a few hours ago, and we have cleared the area, make sure that it's safe. And a few of the most interesting things that we have found totally confirm, without any doubt, that Hamas systematically uses hospitals in their military operations in violation of international law. And what we have found, I think, is only the tip of the iceberg. And if you follow me behind the MRI machine, I'll show you what our troops exposed just minutes ago. In military terms, this is a grab bag, grab and go of a Hamas combatant. And if you zoom in and we get some light over here, what you will be able to see is military equipment. There is an AK-47, there are cartridges, ammo, there are grenades in here, of course, uniform, and all of this was hidden very conveniently, secretly behind the MRI machine. On the other side, we found a backpack with what appears to be very important intelligence, including a laptop, and we'll show you that momentarily. Let's go see the next room. Backpack was found in here, and it was also hidden behind the MRI machine. As you can see, the rest of the equipment here is proper hospital equipment, right? Bandages and medical gear. It seems as if there's no real shortage because there's a lot of equipment here, but we'll leave that for another discussion. Let's go see weapons and other prohibited items. Our troops did a preliminary search of the area. We tried to uncover the cameras, but all of the cameras have been obstructed. You can see there's black tape covering it. And when our troops opened this closet here, which is in the main part of the clinic, this is what they found. These weapons have absolutely no business being inside a hospital. The only reason they're here is because Hamas put them here, because they use this place, like many other hospitals and ambulances and sensitive facilities inside the Gaza Strip, for their illicit military purposes. Full military kit for one Hamas terrorist. A live grenade, ammunition, fighting vest with insignia, boots, and of course uniforms, and last but not least, standard AK-47. Hold on, before we go on, let's have a look at what we found inside the very same cabinet that houses medical equipment. You can see all kinds of standard military medical stuff. We found another go-to bag, this bag here. Now, there's insignia, military insignia, knife. For those of you who read Arabic, you'll be able to understand what it says here. But it's Hamas, the military wing, Kataib al-Qassam, of course a vest with equipment, and as always, an AK-47, standard gear, grab and go, which they thought would be a good place to store inside a hospital. And the last item, which I'm sure will be very interesting to analyze, is a laptop. We found it in the MRI room. This is how the laptop looks. I don't know who it belonged to, but now it is being analyzed by our Intel people. Tactical radio communications, which we will analyze. Lots of disks, which will be analyzed. And a computer, which at first glance already provides a lot of incriminating evidence.
So as you can see in that video, In the MRI building, there were weapons found hidden behind the MRI machines, go bags with AK-47s, lots of mags and uniforms, boots. Also, a laptop with photos of kidnapped Israelis. Proof that Hamas was absolutely using that hospital. It was early yesterday morning that the IDF first entered the hospital complex after, and this goes along with what I was talking about earlier, but after helping ensure safe evacuations. Former U.S. aid director for the West Bank and Gaza, Dave Harden, said it was well known that Hamas was using the Shifa Hospital and traveled to and from the hospital in ambulances. He said, quote, "When I was in sea, it was broadly suspected, understood as far back as 2014 that Hamas used the Shifa Hospital complex as a command center and base for operations." Also, there was a report out of the White House that they were saying they have evidence that Hamas was using the Shifa Hospital. And yet, despite all of this, the BBC decided that it was a good time to pull out a disgusting lie about Israel. Watch this.
At this moment, we are hearing from Reuters that is reporting that Israel, it says its forces are carrying out an operation against Hamas in Gaza's Al-Shifa Hospital, and they are targeting people, including medical teams as well as Arab speakers. They are also saying that Israel is calling on all Hamas operatives in the hospital to surrender at this point. Once again, we are hearing from Reuters that Israel says that its forces are carrying out an operation against Hamas in that hospital that we had just heard of. They are targeting Arab speakers as well as some of the medical staff there. And they are asking all Hamas operatives in that hospital to surrender.
Of course, this is just a stupid, outrageous lie. They were quoting Reuters as saying that Israel was targeting medical teams when they were absolutely not. Later, they were forced to apologize. They put out an apology video saying that they should, instead of saying targeting medical teams, they should have said they were working with the medical teams. As I said before, Israel is one of the most moral armies in the world. They care way more about the civilians of Gaza than the Gaza government, Hamas, does. Don't believe what the mainstream media is telling you. Don't believe the lies that the news media are telling you, that the IDF is just indiscriminately targeting civilians, striking civilians in the Gaza Strip. They care way more about the civilians than Hamas ever does or will. Guys, don't forget to subscribe, get the conversation going down below. Make sure to check out Operation Itai. Help us get to our goal of $29 million to help defend and protect the towns and communities of Judea and Samaria. As always, tune out the fake news and tune into what is actually happening here in the land of Israel. We'll be back every day, Monday through Friday, with your direct connection to the land and people of Israel.